Okay, guys, I think we'll kick off the webinar now. So first of all, just want to say thank you guys all so much for coming along today. We're really excited to discuss SafetiBase with you. So yeah, the whole focus of today of the webinar is how to digitize health and safety with SafetiBase in the construction industry. So before we get into that, just a couple of introductions. So my name is Jack Williams. I'm the Senior Account Manager here at 3D Repo. I'm also accompanied by Andrew Norrie, our Commercial Director. So if you guys want to get in touch with us after the webinar, please feel free to take down our contact details so you can either get in touch with us via LinkedIn, email, or telephone. So the agenda today, we're going to give you an introduction to SafetiBase, and we'll also go through the history, the solution, and the evolution of SafetiBase. Following on from that, we will go through a live demonstration that Andrew Norrie will be delivering for us, and then we'll have a live Q&A session at the end as well. So yeah, just in terms of the housekeeping side of things, in the panel box, there will be a questions box where you can put through all your questions, get them all in there as you go, and then at the end, we'll go through them together as well. There'll also be a few polls that go throughout the webinar as well. So I'm going to put up one now, and if you could please put your feedback into that, that'd be really helpful for us as well. So I'm launching that, and I'll just give you guys 20 seconds to get those answers in, and then we can move forward. All right, got some good answers coming through. Very nice. Okay, I think that'll be enough for us to start off with, guys. So we'll crack into it, right? So SafetiBase. SafetiBase is an award-winning system designed to improve the identification, management, and communication of health and safety hazards for construction projects. So SafetiBase as a solution actually came about because of a problem that was identified on the Tideway project in London. So this was led by 3D Repo, Atkins, and Mott MacDonald. It identified a need for health and safety risk information to become standardized and interoperable. The group applied for funding through I3P and Innovate UK, which was granted, and a consortium of industry professionals and software vendors was created. So from the 3D Repo side, Andrew Norrie, our Commercial Director, who's on the call today, he was our representative. And from here, the consortium was also supported by some of the UK's leading contractors and engineering firms as well, as you can see up on the screen here. But the whole objective behind SafetiBase was to provide an environment where the health and safety information could not only be standardized, but one where the risk could be communicated and resolved before construction work is set foot on site, right? That's it. That's what we want to do. We want to make construction projects safer. So, and the industry needed a step change, right? And technology, well, it gave us the opportunity for that change. So here you can see one of the early workshops where the subject was discussed in detail. And the conclusion was that everyone that was managing health and safety information differently, and it was making it absolutely impossible to aggregate this data. So there were Excel-based risk registers in all shapes and sizes, which are being shared, in uncontrolled manners via email with very little audit traceability, and often lacked a proper version and control system as well. So the approach to this was, it was unstructured, it was disconnected, and it was complicated, and there needed to be a change, right? How we actually manage that data. So throughout some of the organizations that made up the consortium, it was evident that the data silos existed across their organizations and the industry. So some contributors were working on projects within their business, in some cases for the same client, where the data was inconsistent and unstructured and being exchanged and communicated using all manner of different file formats. So this also needed to be changed as well, right? So our objective was it was simple. We wanted to define a structured data schema for health and safety information, one that saves time and has the potential to provide a safer working environment for all construction professionals. It needed to be developed so that the existing risk information was brought through from a previous stage could be easily imported. It needs to be simple to use in an environment where the risk could be identified using existing BIM data, one where risk could be defined by the likelihood and severity, one where risk could be assigned to individual team members in real time, an environment where where risk mitigation could also happen in real time across multiple environments such as Excel and Revit, for example, one that records and exports a full audit trail for each individual risk, and most importantly, one that supports the automation of contract deliverables such as compliant BIM models, annotated 2D drawings, and risk registers. So the development stages of this, right? Phase one of the initiative was to build out a structured data approach for health and safety risk information. This was built on SharePoint, but only allowed the concept to go so far. What was needed was a simple to use cloud-based environment where all project stakeholders could become involved with the risk mitigation process much earlier than ever before. And this is where 3D Repo came in. And finally, to enable an even wider reach, the risk mitigation environment was integrated with Power BI using our open API, where all project stakeholders had access to the information they needed in one place so that the decisions could be made much sooner in the design and delivery stages of a project. As the project was about to be launched, PAS 1192 Part 6 was released into the industry. And this gave us a clear standardized structure on how risks were to be categorized. So we developed this into SafetiBase so that out of the box, we categorize risks in alignment with the Part 6 standard. So PAS 1192 Part 6 is a part of the UK BIM framework. So this framework contains some of the original PAS 1192 standards that have already transitioned to the internationally recognized ISO 19650 standard and some of the existing PAS 1192 standards. So over the next 2 years, these remaining PAS 1192 standards will also transition to the ISO 19650 standards. So ISO 1960 Part 6 will replace PAS 1192 Part 6. And it's also worth noting that Andrew, who's on the call with us today, he's a part of the Part 6 Guidance Committee. So any changes to the terminology and requirements will be delivered to our users through an updated version of SafetiBase. And this was our solution, SafetiBase, right? So it's a cloud-based environment where 2D, 3D, and 4D information could easily be accessed through your web browser. So no desktop applications need to be installed on your computer. It's an environment that supports all major BIM file formats as well. So regardless what tools you're working in, you can easily get your data into our platform. It directly integrates with Autodesk authoring products and commonly used Microsoft products as well. But most importantly, it's one that provides a full risk mitigation audit trail from who identified a risk, the communication around the risk, and who approved closed out individual risks, right? So in terms of the benefits of this, we're fully compliant with PAS 1192 Part 6, as we discussed, and this will be transitioning into that ISO 19650 standard. We provide an environment where the health and safety information is easily accessible for all project stakeholders, making earlier risk identification more achievable than ever before. And this new approach now provides greater transparency and accountability for risk information management across the industry. So the evolution, right? Over the past few years, we've seen some significant evolutions to the SafetiBase product. One of which is from our engagement with the Discovering Safety, who are in partnership with the HSE and Manchester University, which is funded by the Lloyd's Register and is supported by the industry. One of their work streams is around the development of a construction risk database to take the standardization of risk information to the next level. This database is being built and structured around information collected by the HSE from the construction industry. So as more data is approved through this workstream, it becomes available through the SafetiBase treatment suggestions feature. When a certain type of risk is identified and categorized in accordance with the data structure, industry-approved treatment suggestions are made available for selection and approval. So this stage has recently actually been taken a step further with our latest SafetiBase release. So risk mitigation suggestions can now also be collected and added to the database once they have now passed through the approval workflow. These new suggestions are then made available in addition to the out-of-the-box options provided to us by Discovering Safety. Furthermore, if our customers already have approved treatment suggestions, they can easily import these during the initial SafetiBase implementation to complement or replace those we provided out of the box as well. There's an industry change on the horizon too. So the Building Safety Bill has been presented to Parliament. This new legislation is set to become law at some point in 2022. So we believe this will result in a systematic change across the industry and around how health and safety information is managed. And we believe SafetiBase has some way to support this as well. I just think quickly as well, before we go into the demonstration, it's good to touch on our security because security is really important to us and it's important to our customers as well. So we have both the ISO 9001 and 27001 certifications. We also have our Cyber Essentials 2. 3D Repo is developed here in the UK by our London software development team. So we have nothing that's outsourced. It's all based here in the UK, which is really good. And everything we do in 3D Repo is encrypted and access protected by an API service wrapper. And we have the same encrypted transfer protocol as you would have for online banking as well. So we're a very secure platform and we have all the correct accreditation to show it as well. So just before we go into the live demonstration, I'm going to put up another poll, please. And if you guys could answer that, that would be really, really helpful. Andrew, if you'd like, though, you can take over the screen now and get ready for the demonstration just while the poll is getting answered.
Everyone, thanks very much for coming along to this webinar. Great introduction, Jack. Thanks very much for that. I think we'll just let that poll finish off. In the meantime, I think we've got a few questions coming in, but do keep them coming in as we go. If there's anything that pops up, Jack, that seems relevant as we're going through, stop me, and we can try and pick it up there and then rather than come back to the beginning but end. But if not, we'll come back to the end.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on that.
Okay. So we're all good with that poll now?
Good to go.
Yeah, okay, cool. So today I want to take you guys through a quick demonstration of the 3D Repo platform, specifically looking at the SafetiBase workflow and features. Now, I think it's very important to remember that SafetiBase is an industry-wide scheme, as Jack spoke about, and it's something that's been implemented within 3D Repo, but also is designed to be used across multiple different products to bring together information and allow people to collaborate. And hopefully that's what we'll try and show a bit of today. So whereas the majority of what I'm going to be doing is going to be in 3D Repo, we'll also try and bring in a few other tools and show how they can interact using the SafetiBase API to pull and push data back and forth between them. So just a quick introduction to the platform to start with. When you log in, this is 3D Repo as it is at the moment. You'll see you've got various team spaces. So when you're logged in here, you have access to your own personal team space, plus any other team spaces that you're part of that might have been paid for by various companies or projects where they've invited you in and given you access to some of the data within there. So from there, you can open up different models, open up different projects. You can look at various revisions held within model containers of different projects. And then they get brought together into federations. And this is really where we work. So when you open up a federation, you come into the 3D Repo model viewer, and this is where we can start looking and interrogating our 3D models for that risk information that Jack's been talking about. So yeah, the idea is it's a really easy to use, simple tool. Not too many buttons. You see loads of tools down here, but we can easily navigate around. We can see that we've got some risks already been identified on this project. So if I click on one of these risks, going to take me directly to that point and open up our SafetiBase card here. Now, as Jack was speaking about, the fields here have been brought in from PAS 1192 Part 6, but also had some additional stuff added through the Discovering Safety program in order to be able to further classify risk around this risk treatment tool that we're going to be talking about. So if I zoom out again, start having a look at some other risks that we've got here, we can see here we've got a risk that's been created. Someone's given us a little markup around this railing not being high enough when someone's accessing this crawler cab. You can see they'd be right on the edge of there. There's obviously a risk that they could fall. Just go in. So what we can see here is that it's been flagged as very high likelihood because it's so close, and the consequence is very high, which is calculated the overall level of risk is very high. If I come in and change one of these, you'll see that it automatically updates the level of risk based on that standard matrix that Jack showed you in his presentation. We can see it's been associated to the project manager and the associated activities install construction. So if I don't put anything in here, what it's going to do, it's going to look at my database of how I've previously classified stuff within all my other projects and give me the options. Now I can free type and add a new one, but just in terms of trying to keep classification consistent, it does give you the option. So if I start typing in here construction, it's going to give me install construction as an option, and I can select it. And that's the same for all of these fields. They are free typed, but also do look at all your previous options to try and give you that consistency. So yeah, that's been all nicely classified up now. And we can see underneath that we've got a comment trail. So this is what I think is really important about 3D repo or SafetiBase and 3D repo in general, wherever we're using any of these type of ticketing systems, whether it be an issue or a risk, is that we keep that audit trail of information behind who said what, when and where, and not just what they said, but also what they did. So if I come in and look at the system logs, I have a log for every single activity that's happened to do with this risk, whether someone's changed something, updated something, I know exactly who did what. So we've got that accountability, and it's all stored within that immutable database that we always have access to. So that's great, and we can start looking at that risk. It's obviously been assigned to the project manager. Now, they might be using 3D repo, but they might also want to look at it in their own tool. So what we have the ability to do now is view that directly within authoring tools such as Revit. So here within Revit, we've opened up the SafetiBase plugin that's been developed. So this is a free plugin. You obviously still need your 3D repo login to access it, but the plugin's freely available on the Autodesk App Store on our own website. And we can go down, we can find that exact same risk that we've just been working on, takes us to the same view. We can make any changes, but most importantly, we can still collaborate. So someone sitting within the authoring tool, I can still come in here and talk back to the person and have a full chat, say chat on it. And that's give us that live communication back and forth. And I think that's the really important bit that we're trying to get to with safety, is that it's a collaborative process. It's not just something that should happen in isolation from one person filling out a database or even an Excel spreadsheet. It's something that should be constantly changing and being discussed as to the best way to proceed. Now, what we can do now is this person's going to come over and we're going to try and figure out what we can do to treat this risk. What we're going to say here is that we probably want to increase the height of the railing. Okay, so I'm going to say railing height. And I can then set that as my proposed status. I can also attach any resources that I need to. So here I've put in a link to a handrail system. You can also add any documents or files that you need to be associated with that risk or treatment so that people can review them directly within their tools. So now if we go back to 3D repo, we can go and access that risk again. And we can see that my comments come through that I've typed to Jack, and my treatment hasn't come through. I need to go and save it. I've now got increased railing height as my treatment. Now, what I can start to do here is say that I'm now happy with that. So I'm going to agree that that has partially mitigated that risk, and that's going to put that back into my database of previous treatments that I've used. So now when I come in and start looking around my project for other risks, I can see here that there's something that's fairly similar, right? I've got a railing next to a crawler cab, and maybe there's the same type of thing. So when I come through, and it's been classified in the same way with the same fields as before, because I've gone through and I've looked through them and it's given me the options that are the same. I can then use this suggest button, which is going to look across all of my previous projects and find to see any options where a similar risk has been identified and a treatment has been suggested. So I come here, and that is then giving me that increased railing height treatment that I found before. And given the stage, which was design, and the type, which was risk, I can select that, and that goes into here. So it's all about being able to reuse that data as we're going through the project to be able to better understand how we can mitigate it and keep that consistency between projects. So this risk mitigation tool will now work within 3D repo across all projects within your team space where you have this activated. So there's the ability that from one project to the next, you can get the risk treatment information transferring across in a really consistent manner. Yeah, so just quickly while we're in here, I'll just finish off with a few more other little demonstrations of things we can do with risks. So we also now have the ability to add shapes. So if you want to mark out an area instead of just a point, we can come in here and say, this is the area, and that'll get saved away with the risk, not only in terms of the visual, but also the coordinates of those points are also available for you. Those attachments that we were speaking about are still available in here. And you can also upload any images that you need to down here as well. So if I want to upload an image from my computer, I have the ability to do that. Or even if you're on a tablet on site, using other ways you can take pictures and view them back into SafetiBase as well. So just taking a step back from that, how do we manage all of this risk information? So we've got this in this list here within the model viewer, but not every time do people want to be in this view. So if we go back into 3D Repo, in this view, we can come to our issues and risks board, and then we can navigate across to that same project. SafetiBase. Site demo. And what this gives us is a really neat interface for managing our risk information directly within the web browser without the need for the model viewer. So even if you have got people who are used to just working within a database solution or an Excel spreadsheet, this is a nice option for them to be able to do the same type of thing. So we can come in here, I can say, I want to view this one, and I can do everything I would do in the model viewer. I can still do the chat information. I can still, it's still going to log everything that I do. I can still do the treatment suggestion tool. I can add any of the information I need to just without the need to be in a model viewer. And this again will work on a tablet if you want to do it on site, and it has the ability to then take pictures from directly within this environment. You can also raise new risks from within here. Obviously, they won't at this point then be tied directly to the model. They'll just come in there with no positioning, but you can easily edit that within the model viewer when you get a chance to, or when that positioning is needed. Okay, so that really covers the 3D model side of stuff. What I want to go on to have a look at now is the 4D model side of things.
And just while you're loading it up, I might just put another poll up just while you're going through that, right? All right, guys, launching another poll. It should be populating now for you.
Yeah, so I'll let you guys answer that, and I'll quickly start talking about where we're going next with this. So obviously having a 3D model and being able to mark up risk on it is great, especially at a design stage. Looking at the final product is great, but in a construction phase, we know that most of the risk doesn't really occur with what the final product is, but more the activity and how it's created is where a lot of the risk is associated. So what we've been doing for the past year is working on our integration with 4D. This started off with a direct integration with the Bentley Synchro product, which is where this model's come from today. So you can import Synchro models directly into 3D Repo now. And that gives us this sequences tab down here. So I can come in, I've got one sequence associated with this model. You can have multiple, but if I come in and open this, it's going to take us back to the start of the project, and we can start to interrogate it. So you can do everything that you think. So you can kind of scrub through and go to a specific point. We can select a specific date and time. So I can come forward and say, right, I want to go to here. Okay, and it's going to change the model based on that. I can view the full activity list on this side. This is fully searchable, but if I want to come in and look at enabling works, erecting scaffold on the west elevation, take me to the planned start date of that, it will come in and change the model view directly to that point in time. So this is great just from a reviewing 4D models point of view, right? No need for Synchro, no need for installing any software. Everyone on your project has instant access to 3D Repo direct or to the models directly through a web browser, which is great. But that is only limiting in its use case. What we want to be able to do then is tie in our risk information to our sequence. So what you'll notice now is that, well, let me go back and play through that a little bit. If I come in here and start playing through this in a couple of frames at a time, as the sequence carries on playing, you'll notice that risks start appearing and disappearing. And this is because now we've tied our risk to a time point. It's associated with a particular activity and time, so that as the model changes and time changes, the visibility of the risks change as well. So how this works is if I come into this one and look at this fall from open edge, I can see now that we've got this tab sequencing. So here we can put in the start and end date of when this risk would occur, so that we know that it only occurs between a certain point in time, so that it's now tied into our 4D model, which means that when we play back, we get that information. It also means that it's easier for people to understand when the mitigations need to be occurring, not just they generally need to be there. So then the really powerful thing about this is that all of these are really shareable. So every single risk that you create within 3D Repo has its own hyperlink up here. So if I need to send someone this information to explain to them this risk with its space in time, the treatment that's suggested for it, any attachments, and access to the 3D model, all I need to do is share this link up the top with them. And as long as they've got permission to view that model and they've had an account created, they have instant access to all of that information in exactly the place that they need it. So that's one way of sharing it. There are other ways of sharing information as well. One of the more traditional ways that we manage risk information, obviously on a project, is through Excel. And we want to be able to support that to a degree. We believe that it should be deliverable. It can be a deliverable, and we believe that if people want to use that way of working, it's still a valid way of viewing information and changing it. We just turned it on its head a little bit and tried to make it a bit more interactive. So what we've done here is create a direct Excel integration to the 3D Repo database for you. So this means that we can pull and push information from directly within Excel. It's not becoming a standalone way of working, but more another way of updating the information within our SafetiBase database. So here we've entered all of our user information in this user tab. I won't go in there and expose it, but you put in your API key and model ID and that type of thing. And then I can just say, right, pull the risks from 3D Repo. That's going to go away. It's using the Open 3D Repo API to come and pull down all of that information. And then I've got all of my risk information directly from there. So that's great from a reporting point of view. I can use that information however I want, but I can also start to interact with it. So where I've got some of these treatment statuses, I might want to come in and say, this one is fully agreed. I can come in and change any of this to proposed, change these to partial. I can even come in and create a new risk. So if I want to, as part of this, say, risk, so webinar demo. You can come in and fill in all of this information as you would. And then I can push that directly back up to 3D Repo. So that's going to update anything that I've changed within here, but also create me a new risk directly within the 3D Repo environment, and it will pull back down. Yeah, good. So that's pulled back down. It's given me a risk ID here, so it's always linked. So if I go and change everything, it knows that this is that risk. So now when I go back into 3D Repo, you can see that we've got that new risk created within here. It doesn't have any sort of viewpoints or anything associated with it at this point. It's just a general risk, but if I say I know that it's something to do with maybe this access point down here, I can then come in and say I want to add a pin, save the pin, update the viewpoint, create a new screenshot, put any markups on here that I need, save that away, and now I've got a fully collaborated risk directly from within. Okay, so now we've done that. We've shown how we can do one way of reporting. There are other ways of reporting out of 3D Repo as well. So we can also come in and create a report. So this is fully filterable. So maybe we first want to come in. So right, let's filter down our risks first of all. So only those that are of proposed status. That's not quite enough. And agreed partially. and that'll do. And then I can come in and say I want to create a report. So that's going to go off. It will create a PDF report for us. We have some control over what we can do with customizing this. I can have larger pictures. I can hide the log if I don't want to have all of the log information. I just want the basic risk information. I can show the log if I want to have everything that happens. So I've got all the updates and all of the pictures and everything in there. And that can be saved off. One of the really nice things about this, though, is that it does still have that hyperlinks. Remember I was saying earlier that every risk within SafetiBase has a direct hyperlink to it. That's included in this PDF as well. So if I do send someone just a flat PDF, they still have the ability to click on that link and open up that risk directly within 3D Repo, as long as, of course, they have still got access to that through the permissions. And then finally, one of the other ways that we can report this out is through, again, the advantage of having the API is you can create direct links out to things like Power BI. So here we've got a Power BI dashboard that we've created for this project with all of our risk information. This live updates as we go through the project. So whenever I add a risk or change something, all I have to do is click refresh and I've got access to that. We can also start to see the actual screenshots. So here we've got a timeliner of all of the information. Click on any of those risks and see that screenshot that's been taken from there, pulled through directly within the Power BI environment. And I can also just grab normal lists of information as well that I want to see and do the same things. This is a really great way for people to access the information again, who maybe just want to see a full project overview and not caring directly about the individual risk information. I think, Jack, that's pretty much the end of the demonstration, unless there's anything else you want us to cover.
I don't think so. I think we've got a lot of great questions that have came in, which would be good to go through together. I think we've got about 10 minutes worth of time left over. So why don't I'll pull up my, we could leave it, let me just share my screen and we'll go through the questions.
Yeah.
Cool. So lots of good questions coming in. If you guys have more questions, make sure you send them through and we'll go through them together. So first one question here. So
where are we looking at? Questions or chat?
I'm looking at both. I've got two.
Okay.
Which screen is sharing? Can you see the intro slide, or am I sharing the one that shows the questions? Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So there's a few interesting ones. I like this one here. So what happens during a safety review meeting when all are in the same room with an audit trail? Can you add meeting minutes, or will one person be responsible for updating the risks under their name? In the chat section.
Oh, you wanted me to answer?
Yeah. Sorry.
So you could, there's a couple of options, I guess. Meeting minutes. I mean, yeah, it would be one person, I guess, entering the information, so it would go under one person's name. You could attach meeting minutes to a risk, but I guess that's not really, unless that meeting is specifically about one risk that we're trying to mitigate. I don't know if that's really the right solution. But yeah, I think if you're doing it in a room, one person can fill in the risk information at one time and add the information that's needed.
What's another one? So have you been able to link these risks to the overall program/project risk register?
Sorry, say that again.
So have you been able to link the risks created in 3D Repo to an overall program/project risk register? So I guess the answer is yes, right? Well, depending on what that risk register looks like, if it's an Excel spreadsheet. I think for us, Barry, if you want to, we'll be more than happy to have a bit more of an understanding about what that risk register looks like for you. But depending on what it is, yes, you can link those risks to a risk register. Andrew, I'll let you answer this one. Can we export risk issues on BCF format?
No, not currently. If you want to use the BCF format, you can use our issue tracker, which is BCF compliant. Unfortunately, the BCF, I guess you could, in theory, we could make it so that, because BCF has the option to have optional fields in it, right? The problem is that no other tool would be able to read them, because no one else would be looking for a BCF with the field associated activity in it. So it's not really the best route to go down. You can export them as just basic JSON information and then import them into things like Excel or anything that accepts a JSON file. But yeah, the BCF format, I don't think, I'm willing to have a discussion about this to be proven wrong, but I don't think would be suitable because other tools just wouldn't have the fields to understand the information that you're putting into it. One of the other ones I've got here that's quite interesting is, can the free type fields be shown with predefined drop-down lists rather than just previously typed entries? Yes. So you can turn off the previously defined entries version of it so that doesn't work anymore. And you can just import a CSV file of all of your drop-downs that you want to have in there. It doesn't disable free type though, is the only thing I'd say. We always keep free type available at the moment. But you can make the drop downs at least be predefined and not use the previously typed entries. So it's a good way to set it up from the beginning.
Another good question here. So hazards in the example seem to be associated to a point location. In linear infrastructure projects, we sometimes have risks that cover an area. Is it possible to define areas for hazards instead of points? How would you manage that if this is not possible? Well, I think, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think with having that new shapes functionality, right, you could start to actually not just have a point there, but then you could actually create a shape that is focusing on that area. So
yeah, the other option is to with the location field to fill that in with chainage information for linear infrastructure and stuff like that. So you might want to put in certain zones or areas into that location field to be able to categorize your risks out a bit better in that way, rather than just the drawing part of it. But yeah, as I said, using that shapes tool, you can get information to the coordinates stuff as well.
Yeah, so lots of good questions coming in. This is good, guys. Are the risks associated with a GUID or a unique identifier?
Yes. So yeah, you saw in the Excel spreadsheet, they have a unique identifier against every risk that is maintained. They also have a hyperlink against every risk, which is unique as well. So both of those are maintained against it.
That's another one. Sorry, guys, there's just lots of questions coming in here at the moment. When creating a risk, is it my understanding that there will be a log of risks, measures, and mitigations from the HSE data that is automatically uploaded into the SafetiBase? Could you confirm this? Yes.
Say that again. Yes. No, I can't. Hang on.
Final question in the chat. So when creating risk, it is my understanding that there will be a log of risks, measures, and mitigations from the HSE data that is automatically loaded up into SafetiBase. Could you confirm this?
No, it's not automatic. It's not automatically pulled from anywhere. If you want to get a list of information that the HSE is curating through their discovering, no, it's not HSE, I've got to be clear on this, it's the Discovering Safety Programme, is curating around risk and treatment information. You can download that from the Discovering Safety website and upload it to your TeamSpace. It's not pulled automatically at the moment. In the future, it will be there will be an option to share your information back to the HSE anonymously, but again, that is an option that's completely open to you guys to be able to do it. And there will be an option in the future for it to automatically pull the latest version of that. At the moment, though, it is a manual go and download the CSV from the HSE, which is periodically updated, not HSE, I've got to stop saying that, from Discovering Safety, that's periodically updated and pushed into SafetiBase yourself if you want to do that.
Another question. So this is an interesting one. Can risk be bulk applied to multiple components of the same type? So would that be possible through the Excel spreadsheet if you had the X, Y, Z locations of those components?
Again,
it's an interest. So
where is it?
So we've got a mixture because we've got people coming in through the chat and we've also got coming in from the Q&A as well. So it's in the Q&A. I think it is 1, 2, 3. It's the fourth question down. Can risks be bulk applied to multiple components of the same type? Because you, in theory, you should be able to, you could create the risk, right, and then copy that in the Excel spreadsheet. And then if you had the X, Y, Z coordinates, you'd be able to apply them to those components within the model.
Yeah, you could do it like that. Yeah. So you could do it through the Excel spreadsheet and push to a particular location of an object.
Yeah.
And you'd get multiple things come into it. Yeah.
But look, guys, look, if anyone wants to have a deeper conversation, you know, specifically around their questions, if we didn't answer them as deeply as you would like, please, honestly, feel free to reach out to us because we're more than happy to have a discussion on this topic with you all. What else?
I think there's another one here around risks in the COBie sheets will already have a unique ID. Now, yes, I agree. But I would also say that there's a better workflow than trying to link the two IDs together, where you actually create the risks in COBie from the information in 3D repo. So how you can do that at the moment is by pushing risk information from 3D repo. So one of the integrations I didn't show today is our Dynamo integration, where you can create Revit families within Revit with the risk information embedded into them from SafetiBase. And that's obviously like a live link, but then also, or every time you update, but then also when you can then map obviously those objects in the Revit families out to your IFC export where you're getting your COBie out from, or whatever method you're using to get to COBie, you can map that information out. So there's a way to have one inform the other rather than have one and have two separate informations that we're trying to link together. But I guess, yeah, the other way is that it would just have to be a mapping thing in Excel if they were already separated. Is there a Dynamo script available? Yes, it's on our website. If you go to downloads, resources, downloads, at the bottom, there's a thing called developer tools. I would like to stress the Dynamo script is there for Dynamo users. It does work out of the box, but the idea is that you kind of pick it up and run with it and change it for your own use cases. It's just a starting point.
Perfect. Well, look, I think that's basically us in terms of time, guys. If we didn't get around to some of your questions, as I said before, please do reach out to us. We're happy to have a conversation. But apart from that, just want to say thank you all so much for coming along today. It was great to give you guys an introduction to SafetiBase and show how it can potentially improve health and safety processes on your site.
Is there one final poll, Jack? I think just around.
No, I think I've done it. I've done all the polls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're done all the polls. So yeah, that's everything. So yeah, guys, thanks so much. There's also going to be a recording as well that we can send out to you that you can share around with co-workers. So yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, I think someone asked for the slides as well, Jack, which I'll just run through and check, but I don't see any reason why we can't send them out as a PDF.
Oh, okay. Well. Okay. Cool. Sorry, I thought we can do that. Yeah, we can do that as well then. Perfect.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.